In 1929, the aftermath of the First World War led to a global economic crash and a rise in authoritarian ideologies. Many were desperate for a new beginning. Dr. Ritter and his partner Dora made the decision to leave Germany behind and settle on the remote, uninhabited island of Floriana in the Galapagos archipelago. When ships occasionally passed, Ritter would send letters detailing their secluded life. His mission was to write a new philosophy he hoped could guide humanity to a better future. In 1932, inspired by Ritter's pursuit, Margaret, her husband Heinz, and their son Harry sold everything and moved to Floriana as well. They hauled their belongings up a hill until they came across Ritter and Dora. Heinz showed them a newspaper revealing that Ritter's letters had been published, making him a minor celebrity in Germany. Though Ritter had hoped for isolation, he reluctantly agreed to show them around. He proudly presented his garden, emphasizing its importance since they lived entirely off plant-based food. He explained the effort it took to clear the brush and build a life there, asking why they had come. Heinz revealed that Harry had been ill and they couldn't afford treatment back home. He'd heard Dora was recovering from a condition and hoped to find help. However, Ritter refused to share any details, stating he was saving it for his writing. Meanwhile, Dora spoke with Margaret while caring for the animals, remarking on the age gap between Margaret and Heinz. She clarified that Harry wasn't her biological child, as she was Heinz's second wife. Dora also warned that the island's animals could be dangerous and noted Ritter disliked her affection for their donkey, seeing it as an emotional weakness. Ritter later took the family to a cave where they could sleep. The only water came from a small stream. When he returned home, Dora expressed her discomfort with the new arrivals and reminded him they had come to the island for solitude. Ritter reassured her, mentioning that he had already arranged for the newcomers to stay away from their home. In the following days, the family worked under harsh conditions to establish themselves. While Heinz showed resilience, it was clear Harry and Margaret were struggling. Mosquitoes made sleeping difficult, and Harry's health issues persisted. They worked through the rain, eventually guiding the stream to create a pond. One night, after a troubling dream, Margaret told Heinz she was expecting a baby. Heinz was thrilled, but Margaret was worried about raising a child in such a harsh environment. Suddenly, a noise alerted them. Wild dogs were tearing into their supplies. Heinz chased them away, but most of the food was already gone. Margaret later visited Ritter's home, asking to borrow something. She tried to make small talk, but the couple ignored her. After she left, Ritter and Dora took some joy in the family's struggle, feeling validated in their decision to stay isolated. While moving their remaining supplies, the family heard a commotion near the beach. Ritter saw a ship approaching through his binoculars. A woman named Eloise disembarked, declaring herself a symbol of elegance. Her companions, Rudolph and Robert, carried her ashore, followed by her servant Manuel and an extravagant wardrobe. Eloise chose a spot to build a resort and celebrated in the water with her companions while Manuel scared off wild dogs. Soon after, they visited Ritter and Dora, bringing a chair for Eloise, who expected formal greetings. Dora simply shook her hand, and Ritter appeared without getting dressed. Eloise praised Ritter's reputation, mentioning how he was admired abroad. Ritter offered advice on where to find water. Later, Heinz and Margaret discovered Eloise and her group using their pond. Rudolph became confrontational, but Eloise diffused the situation and explained she was using the water until they could dig a well. She gave them letters, some of which were for Ritter. Ritter was upset that the envelopes had been opened. He accused Eloise of manipulating the situation to sow distrust between him and Heinz. He warned that this marked the beginning of conflict. Heinz confronted Eloise about her intentions. She claimed Ritter had tried to turn him against her first. She then showed off a newspaper article about her exclusive resort for wealthy guests. Not long after, Eloise passed Ritter's home, mocking him. Ritter confronted her, and she repeated the insult until a shouting match ensued. Meanwhile, Heinz chased a cow to the caves, managing to secure it with Margaret's help. This meant they would now have milk. By spring, Heinz had built a house, and Margaret had grown their first vegetable. Eloise announced they would camp nearby until her resort was ready. Margaret told her about the baby and asked for peace and quiet, but Eloise argued that community was also important. That night, Eloise's group partied loudly, disturbing the family. Later, Ritter discovered that a pig had eaten all his vegetables. While he was washing up, a gunshot rang out. Heinz was hunting with a rifle. Ritter visited the family and was surprised to see they were thriving. He traded chickens for the cow's head and offered a deal. Margaret asked if Ritter would assist with the birth. He refused and launched into a philosophical outburst, predicting a poor outcome. That night, he cooked the cow head, upsetting Dora, who reminded him of their commitment to a plant-based diet. They argued, each blaming the other for their situation. Meanwhile, Rudolph kept searching for clean water without success. He returned to camp only to hear Eloise in an intimate moment with Robert, which annoyed the others. Eloise asked for food, but supplies were low. She blamed Rudolph for poor planning and ran off in distress. Harry found her, and she encouraged him to believe in himself. She convinced him to run, something he usually couldn't do. Afterward, she learned the family still had preserved supplies. Soon after, Margaret began feeling contractions while Robert and Manuel broke into the cave to steal food. Margaret went to seek help, forcing the men to hide. She returned in pain, ready to give birth, and noticed blood. She stepped outside again, giving the thieves a chance to escape. The scent of blood attracted wild dogs, and she had to defend herself with a broom. In their tent, Eloise argued with her group about the lack of supplies. Manuel expressed concern for Margaret and wanted to help. Rudolph agreed, but Eloise refused to let them leave. Manuel, frustrated, called her heartless. As Margaret gave birth, the dogs tried to approach the baby. Harry and Heinz returned just in time to scare them away. Margaret feared the worst, but Heinz revived the baby. Margaret passed out, and Heinz ran to get Ritter. He was reluctant, but Dora insisted he help. Ritter examined Margaret and realized the placenta was stuck. He removed it using hot water and a spoon, saving her life. Manuel, watching from outside, reported back to Eloise. When she questioned why he didn't stop the doctor, he told her he came as a builder, not to harm others. He called her selfish. The family eventually settled into a peaceful routine, and the fresh air began to improve Harry's health. One afternoon, Eloise brings Margaret a can of food as a gift for the baby and apologizes for Manuel, saying he was a thief and she sent him away. She holds the baby high and invites the family to lunch. Later, when Margaret asks Heinz about it, he refuses to go and doesn't believe the story about Manuel. He suspects Eloise was behind the theft. Margaret convinces him by pointing out that refusing might upset Eloise, and she seems unpredictable. During lunch, Eloise sings and dances, but only Harry enjoys it. Ritter has to put in his fake teeth to eat, revealing that he removed his real ones when he first arrived to avoid infection. As Heinz keeps calling every dish stolen, Eloise notices Dora eyeing the baby. She tries to talk about the birth, but the others quickly change the subject. Eloise continues with subtle, uncomfortable remarks until Ritter finally snaps, revealing that Dora can't have children. Feeling exposed, Dora tries to leave, but the guard dog blocks her. Eloise calls the dog off, and Dora leaves. Ritter then shouts that he wants Eloise gone and threatens to remove her himself. In response, Eloise pulls out a gun and presents documents from the local governor stating that the island belongs to her. With no way to fight back, everyone leaves. When the family gets home, Ritter is waiting. He offers them food in exchange for a rifle. After the trade, Heinz asks Margaret about some of the things Eloise said. Margaret admits she only married him because he proposed, and she wanted to escape a miserable home life. That night, Ritter shoots the pig that has been damaging his garden. Summer arrives, bringing a drought, and the family's pond dries up. Ritter progresses with his writing, but soon faces creative burnout. One day, Rudolph shows up, asking for food. In exchange, he shares a secret. Eloise copied everything from films, her accent, mannerisms, stories, and even the title of Baroness. Her family cut ties with her, and she ended up broke in Paris, working low-level stage shows. Back at the tent, Eloise panics when she runs out of cigarettes. She smells food on Rudolph and accuses him of siding with others. After a heated exchange, they slap each other, and Robert steps in, physically overpowering Rudolph. Later, a yacht arrives carrying Alan, an explorer and film director, who brings Ritter supplies. Eloise sees an opportunity. That night, Alan hosts an elegant dinner with music. Margaret cries during the event, and Eloise mimics her by wetting her eyes. Suddenly, a volcano erupts on another island, drawing everyone's attention. Ritter, wary of Eloise's interest in Alan, sneaks into her tent to steal supplies. Dora catches him and reminds him of their shared values, but he ignores her. In private, Eloise tries to seduce Alan, pretending to be unwell and seeking comfort. Alan sees through it and turns her down. Later, Rudolph asks if Alan will take him away as Eloise promised, but she tells him Alan is investing in her future resort. Then she notices that her supplies are missing. In the morning, she watches Alan's ship sail away and loses hope. Meanwhile, Ritter realizes he's also been robbed. He goes to the family and asks them to pick a side. Ritter and Heinz arm themselves and confront Eloise. Robert also pulls a weapon. Margaret and Harry try to intervene and prevent violence. Frustrated, Ritter goes home and destroys his typewriter. He announces he's going hunting and takes the last of their food, leaving spoiled leftovers for the chickens. Meanwhile, Rudolph is with the family when Eloise arrives. Margaret tells him to ignore her, but Rudolph agrees to talk. Eloise surprises him by giving him food and clothes and says he's free to leave. He kisses her and asks if there's anything he can do. Suddenly, the family hears a noise and believes the pig is in the garden. Heinz rushes out with a gun, only to discover he's killed Dora's donkey by mistake. Rudolph watches silently. In the morning, Dora finds her chicken sick and her donkey missing. She visits the family, who tell her what happened, though not in full detail. Dora breaks down in grief, and Heinz helps her return home. Privately, Heinz tells Ritter what really happened. As they argue, they spot Robert spying. Robert reports back to Eloise, saying her plan worked. In the woods, Ritter and Heinz find Rudolph, who confesses that Eloise promised he could go home. Later, Heinz sends Margaret and Harry to gather grass to reinforce the roof. The men arm themselves again and confront Eloise. Robert fights back, overpowering both men. Rudolph stabs his hand, and Robert brings him down to retaliate. Heinz jumps in and, in the chaos, stabs Robert repeatedly until he dies. Eloise comes out and claims Robert mistreated her, but no one believes her. She offers to share the island, but Ritter silences her with a fatal shot. Margaret hears the gunfire and grows suspicious. The group disposes of the bodies at sea and agrees to keep the truth hidden from their partners. That night, it finally rains, and Margaret comforts a guilt-ridden Heinz. The next morning, Rudolph fakes a letter from Eloise saying she and Robert left. Dora grows suspicious because Eloise left so many things behind. Ritter buys many of those items from Rudolph, hoping to save money for the next ship. He's written to the governor, who plans to visit soon. Margaret warns Heinz that Ritter may blame the incident on him, so they need a strategy. Meanwhile, Dora tells Ritter she's leaving him for betraying their ideals. In a rage, he uses pliers to extract her bad tooth without consent. Later, Dora takes a walk and meets Margaret, who tells her the truth about Eloise's death. Margaret warns that Ritter is dangerous, but Dora won't listen. Before leaving, Margaret gives her healthy chickens and warns against cooking the sick ones. Soon, a ship passes by. Rudolph jumps into the water and offers the captain all his money. The man eventually throws him a lifesaver. Back home, Dora finds Ritter writing again and prepares a meal using the sick chickens. She doesn't eat, saying her mouth still hurts. Hours later, Ritter is in agony. Dora asks the family for help, but there's nothing anyone can do. It becomes clear she just wants witnesses. Ritter curses her before he dies. In autumn, the governor arrives with soldiers. News has spread about Eloise, and Ritter's final letter accuses Heinz. Dora confirms the claim. However, Margaret tells the governor that Ritter also died under suspicious circumstances. She explains she gave Dora healthy chickens, so the poisoning must have been intentional. The governor arrests Dora. Before leaving, he offers to take the family, but Margaret says they prefer to stay alone. This is based on a true story. Eloise and Robert's remains were never found. Dora published a book about her experience before passing in 1943. Margaret later released her own book contradicting Dora's account. Rudolph never reached the mainland. The boat ran out of fuel, and his body, along with the captain's, was later found. Margaret remained on the island until her death in 2000 at the age of 96. Her descendants still live there today and run a small tourist lodge.